In April of 2018, the Ten Commandments Monument was reinstalled on the Arkansas State Capitol grounds after the original was destroyed almost a year earlier. But that's not the end of the story. Senator Jason Rapert is here to give us the latest on Arkansas's fight for religious freedom of expression. That's straight ahead as Arkansas Live starts right now. And for the sake of our viewers, I would like to remind you, if you're not aware or if you've turned a deaf ear to this, religious persecution is on the rise. And Arkansas is not an exception. We have seen continued battles, fights, and even legal battles, and that's what this court date is about, to challenge our right of religious expression in the state of Arkansas. So I'm bringing this program to you, our viewers, so that you will know exactly what's going on, and you will hear from Senator Jason Rapert himself, and he can help you understand why this is so important and why I wanted you to be aware. In Psalm 11:3, I've read this to you before, it says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? And if you look the word foundations up, you'll see moral and political. So the ball's in our court, folks. We as the righteous, through the shed blood of Jesus Christ, being born again, we've been made righteous. Not talking about self-righteousness. We have a responsibility to be aware and to assist and to help in these efforts. So welcome, Senator Jason Rapert.
Thank you.
You're no stranger to this program.
Appreciate you having me again.
We love you, appreciate you, and appreciate whatever you do. And this is really one of the organizations that's under attack is the American History and Heritage Foundation.
That's correct.
Which you chair, and I think we owe you a great debt of gratitude for putting the Ten Commandments Monument on the state capitol. Just a little history in case somebody's just tuning in. You've been a Republican member of the Arkansas Senate since 2011. Mm-hmm. You represent District 35. You're the president of American History and Heritage Foundation. You were a primary sponsor of Act 1231, which we'll get into later. Mm-hmm. But on June 27th, 2017, the original Ten Commandments Monument was installed on the Arkansas State Capitol grounds and destroyed less than 24 hours later. Take us back there and explain what happened.
Well, first of all, I do appreciate again you having me on here. And there's been a lot that's happened in this case since 2015. And as you mentioned, Act 1231 was passed in 2015. It became law in April of 2015, by the way, so we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of when the law actually was passed. After it was passed, then we went through the process of the Capitol Grounds Commission approving a location, right, approving a design. We raised all of the money for the monument through the American History and Heritage Foundation, and I know your viewers are going to get to see a link for that later. So we raised all the money, and then June the 27th, the monument, and this was of 2017, the monument was installed. The very next morning, I got a text from a friend who also works at the Capitol and sent me a picture showing the monument scattered out across the pavement, and he said, they've already torn it down. I actually thought it was a joke, and then I realized that he actually had seen that the monument had been destroyed, and that was less than 24 hours later on June the 28th. And obviously a person who is mentally disturbed, he said this, and for those that are watching, and this is a spiritual program, I remember what the man said. He said he was watching the news program about the installation of the monument, and he said a voice told him to go destroy the monument. And so he came to the Arkansas State Capitol, drove his vehicle there, turned on a live video, and filmed himself ramming his car into that monument. It also happens to be the very same person who destroyed the Oklahoma State Capitol monument. And so we pray for this man because he's obviously disturbed. And apparently the voices that are speaking to him often tell him to destroy 10 Commandments monuments.
And we know, as Christians, we know that to be the voice of the enemy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And so once with that happened, of course, we said we will raise all of the private funds again. That's important for the people to know that there has been no public funds utilized in either building, constructing that monument. So we raised all of the money again. In fact, there are over 800 people that we have a record of that have actually given to build the first monument and the second monument. And so April the 26th of 2018, which by the way, next month will be the 2-year anniversary of the installation of the final 10 Commandments monument, and we're hoping to possibly do a support rally on April the 26th. It's on a Sunday. We're hoping to put together a support rally. So if people are interested in that, please have them reach out to us, because it's important for the people of Arkansas to show that we stand for this historical and moral foundation of law in our country. So where it stands now, we put up the monument. Very shortly thereafter, then you had 5 outside litigants that found 4 people in the state of Arkansas to use their name as the lead plaintiffs. And so those 5 plaintiffs consist of the American Humanists, the American Atheists, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the Satanic Temple, and the ACLU. And they have opened up the litigation, and that's currently where we stand now. There's been a lot of jousting that has gone on throughout this. As you know, they subpoenaed me on this since I was the lead sponsor. And they also are hassling me because I, as a private citizen, formed the American History and Heritage Foundation, and we raised all of the money. And so back in the fall of last year, they commanded me to come in, the first time I ever had to give a formal deposition. And for 8 hours, Pastor Caldwell, they hammered me in a deposition. They turned loose the American Atheists, the American Humanists, and one after another. And 80% of the time was not really about Act 1231, which is the law. It was really picking on me and trying to disturb me and upset me by picking at my Christian faith. Yeah. I think if people saw what they did and the tactics that they're using, like you said, there really is persecution that is boiling across the country, primarily from these anti-Christian, anti-God groups. And that fight has been brought to the state of Arkansas. And they would have done it over any number of things. Yeah. They sue over prayers in front of the city councils. They sue over prayers given at school board meetings. They do this all over the country. But in this case, they simply want to take down the 10 Commandments monument. But I'm hopeful that Judge Baker is going to uphold this monument just like the Supreme Court upheld the Texas monument in 2005.
I want to reiterate the importance of standing with Senator Rapert and the American History Foundation. This is a religious persecution. It's not all happening over in Africa and Europe and third world countries. It's happening right here at home. And it's time that the people of Arkansas stood up and spoke up. Pray for this man. Support this American History and Heritage Foundation. You can do that, but you cannot be afraid and fearful. I've known Jason for a number of years, and he's fought a good fight. I mean, we want him to keep fighting. We want him to finish his course. You don't want him to give up and throw in the towel. He's not a quitter. He's a fighter. But there are costs. I mean, this is like David and Goliath, and we need to put some rocks in his sling. Let me give you this information that we'll put up on the screen for you to write a letter of encouragement, to call, to email, or whatever. Here is the American History and Heritage Foundation information. Box 10388, 10388, 10388, 10388, Conway, Arkansas, 72034. Area code 501-336-0918. That's the American History and Heritage .org website. You can go on the line, you can call the number, you can write a letter, you can even support, just like all the people did that helped put that monument up there. Maybe you were one of them. Well, don't quit now. Stand with him, because this court case is coming up July the 13th. And you still have time to mass. Make this a part of your prayer groups, your life groups, your Sunday school groups. Pastors, you need to rally your church people to stand with American History and Heritage Foundation. And pray for Christine Baker, who's the federal judge, and pray for the state of Arkansas. The Arkansas courts are going to be attacked, and they're going to be having to stand also. So I want you to know how important this is. This is Psalm 11:3 in your lap. What are the righteous going to do? Because, Senator, if the enemy can play out this in Arkansas and get victories, they'll more than likely take that and use it in other states for other issues.
That's exactly right. You know, the Satanic Temple has been one of the primary pot stirrers, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know, they actually put a film together, which has been released and is actually now streaming. And oddly enough, about a third of that film is focused on the Arkansas Ten Commandments and myself. I didn't know about the film until I was quoted in a Sundance Film Festival article about it, and the title is Hail Satan with a question mark. Mm. And I actually encourage people that have the streaming services, go watch this, and here's why. You need to understand what we're dealing with in the country. Mm. They are utilizing the mass media to normalize atheism and Satanism. And as much as many of these people will say, we're not really Satanists, we're actually atheists, we're non-theistic, but they idolize Satan in all of their messaging. And so it's important for people to be involved, because they are. As a matter of fact, these same groups are the groups that will oppose pro-life legislation. They will oppose traditional marriage legislation is out there. Brother Happy, I wanted to share with you to reiterate, because many people think that there is no standard for the Ten Commandments out there. But the Ten Commandments monuments that are across the country, it's not only here in Arkansas. Obviously, the Texas monument was the focus of the Supreme Court decision in 2005. But there also is a monument at the Arizona State Capitol. I've been there, laid my hands on it. In Colorado, in Denver, there is a Ten Commandments monument just off the front of the state capitol. I've been there. I've laid my hands on that monument. There's one in Missouri, which I've not been there, but I'm about to go up there with a Christian lawmakers group that's asked me to come up. But these monuments are around. But I wanted you to hear just a snippet from Chief Justice Rehnquist. His words ring so true and do the best job. And I wanted you to hear this. Number one, I've got the decision in front of me, and right on the very first page of that decision, it says the question here is whether the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment allows the display of a monument inscribed with the Ten Commandments on the Texas State Capitol grounds. We hold that it does. That's the bottom line. But here's what he said. In this case, we are faced with the display of the Ten Commandments on government property outside the Texas State Capitol. Such acknowledgments of the role played by the Ten Commandments in our nation's heritage are common throughout America. We need only look within our own courtroom. He's speaking about the United States Supreme Court. Since 1935, Moses has stood holding two tablets that reveal portions of the Ten Commandments written in Hebrew among other lawgivers in the South Freeze. Representations of the Ten Commandments adorn the metal gates lining the north and south sides of the courtroom, as well as the doors leading into the courtroom. You know, they've called me liars for 2 years, the American Atheists and the Satanic Temple, saying that I am misquoting that those are not on the door. Here is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States that's telling them where these representations are. He goes on to say, Moses also sits on the exterior east facade of the building holding the Ten Commandments tablets. I've seen those myself. Similar acknowledgments, now listen to this, similar acknowledgments can be seen throughout a visitor's tour tour of the nation's capital. For example, a large statue of Moses holding the Ten Commandments alongside a statue of the Apostle Paul has overlooked the rotunda of the Library of Congress in Jefferson Building since 1897. And the Jefferson Building's great reading room contains a sculpture of a woman beside the Ten Commandments with a quote above her from the Old Testament, Micah 6:8, which, by the way, happens to be on a boulder on Petit Jean Mountain at the Rockefeller home. And Winthrop Rockefeller said that was his favorite verse. A medallion with 2 tablets depicting the Ten Commandments decorate the floor of the National Archives. Inside the Department of Justice, a statue entitled The Spirit of Law has 2 tablets representing the Ten Commandments lying at its feet. In front of the Ronald Reagan Building is another sculpture that includes a depiction of the Ten Commandments. So too, a 24-foot tall sculpture depicting, among other things, the Ten Commandments and a cross stands outside the federal courthouse that houses both the Court of Appeals and the District Court for the District of Columbia. Moses is also prominently featured in the chamber of the United States House of Representatives, and he says this in closing: "Our opinions, like our building, have recognized the role the Decalogue plays in America's heritage. The executive and legislative branches have also acknowledged the historical role of the Ten Commandments." They cite several cases, by the way. "These displays and recognitions of the Ten Commandments bespeak the rich American tradition of religious acknowledgments. Of course, the Ten Commandments are religious," he says. "They were so viewed at their inception and so remain. The monument, therefore, does have religious significance. According to the Judeo-Christian belief, the Ten Commandments were given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. But Moses was a lawgiver as well as a religious leader." I appreciate that in him.
Yeah.
"And the Ten Commandments have an undeniable historical meaning, as the foregoing examples demonstrate." I wanted to take time.
Yes, sir.
This isn't from the Bible. This isn't from a preacher.
Right.
This was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Now, he said a lot more than that. But I've given anybody that's watching the program, I've given you enough information. All you have to do is take this and post that information and tell them that you support the Arkansas Ten Commandments Monument, and here is why.
Yep.
The Texas Supreme Court upheld that, and as I've said many, many times, if the Ten Commandments on display is good enough for the United States Supreme Court chamber itself, it's good enough for the state of Arkansas, and that's my belief.
Yes, sir. I want to commend you for doing this research and commend you for standing. And I want you to join the senator and with Christians all over the state of Arkansas to not only encourage him and support him, but I want you to pray for this court case coming up in July. Make that a part of your plan. We have to do this, folks. You know, Arkansas is going down the road of other states where lotteries and casinos, and now they're even talking about recreational marijuana, et cetera. We don't want to go down those roads, and the only thing it's going to take is for the good people of the state of Arkansas to stand up and say, no more. You've got a legislator here that is standing for, as the Bible says, we're standing against the decline of the foundations of our country and of our state. So I want to encourage you to do this. Here's the information up on the screen once more. American History and Heritage Foundation, P.O. Box 10388, excuse me, Conway, Arkansas, 72034, area code 501-336-0918. And the website is AmericanHistoryandHeritage.org. And not only praying for this trial, because what's at stake at this trial? You've already heard a little bit about it. You want to address that?
Well, what's at stake is truly the battlefield that has been set on religious liberty in the country. People now understand that there is an all-out war on God and the Bible in our nation right now. If you will notice, if you go back to 1962, when they use the Supreme Court, the federal courts, they've weaponized the courts against anything that upholds the Judeo-Christian history and heritage of the country. They went after prayer.
Yeah.
1963, they went after the Bible.
Right.
1973, they went after life itself. Now, 60 million babies have been killed through abortion. And right now, by the way, I will say, I have objected to the University of Central Arkansas in Conway, in my district, because they are allowing Planned Parenthood to come in and organize on that campus. They even listed Planned Parenthood in their UCA student handbook. And I want to say to you, trustees of the University of Central Arkansas, please do not expose our students to the largest abortion provider in American history. There are plenty of people that can give students health care and can give them resources to help with women's health. That's good. But we do not need to be propping up an entity that, frankly, is one of the largest mass murderers in the history of the world. They've killed more babies in our country than any entity ever. And so you look at the courts, 62, 63, 73, and then the 80s, they came after the Ten Commandments displays. I said last night in a church where I was at, we ought to have the Ten Commandments displayed in every public school classroom, every public building that we have in America, and in every courtroom. Because I would tell you, it's obvious from the decisions that we've seen and from the history of the country, the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, has truly been a historical and moral foundation of law. I will say, as I end my comments on this, what's at stake is the very future of this nation.
Yep.
Right now, we're voting. Just before this program airs, we will have had Super Tuesday. In the last major presidential election, they said that only half of the Christians in America were even registered to vote. And of those half that were registered to vote, only half of those actually voted. So I want to tell you, if you're in Arkansas, if you wonder why that you have casinos that are popping up all over Arkansas, if you want to know why that you have legalized a drug that often is a gateway drug that leads people down a road of bondage to addiction, if you want to know why that you see LGBT clubs that are forming in your classrooms, in your schools, it is because, hold on, it's because many of you do not vote. Many of you do not get up off of the pew or off your couch and go vote on election day. If you want to have a godly nation, you have got to elect godly leaders. And preachers, pastors, listen to me. Don't wait till it's too late. I talked to a pastor last night who called me. I won't say the name of the community. He said, "Senator, we need to talk. Our mayor has called us and advised us that there is a man wanting to open up a satanic temple church in their community here in Arkansas. What do we do?" This happens to be a community is right in the middle of some of the casino fights. And as I talked with him, I applauded him for taking a stand, because we need men and women of God that will stand up and preach the Bible. I'm not even telling people to go vote Republican or Democrat. Go vote the Bible.
Right.
And when you vote, make sure you know what these people believe. Are they voting to kill babies? Are they voting to use your taxpayer money to support abortion? Are they voting so that drag queens can go into public libraries and host opportunities to read to your children and normalize that? Are they voting to support using your taxpayer money so Sesame Street can put somebody on screen a man wearing a dress? Are they putting your money in programs like Arthur, which has a same-sex wedding ceremony? Friends, I don't know what else it will take, Pastor Caldwell. People have got to wake up. Our nation is under assault.
Yeah.
And the only way for us to stand up for that is to do what the Bible said in Genesis 1:26 through 28. Go take authority and dominion over everything in the earth. And I promise you, friends, if you will get engaged and you will go vote, and you will elect godly men and women to office in the United States of America, you will change the country for the better, and we will be better off for it. And you can tell I'm pleading with people. They have fought me, accused me. They're hauling me into this litigation. Besides the Ten Commandments monument, the American atheists are suing me. And they have decided that they want to paint me as what they term a Christian nationalist. And they mean to use that word as a negative connotation,
right,
trying to say that I've even been called, even in the deposition, they talked about the Christian nationalist or Christian supremacist. Well, you know what? Our founding fathers totally hinged this nation on our Creator, yep, giving us rights that man didn't give us and man couldn't take away. And I'm going to stand for God and country, Brother Happy. I will tell you, they have really frayed the edges, but I am standing.
Yes, sir.
I do not intend to give up, and I certainly hope that people that are watching this will stand with us across the country.
I believe they will, and I'm asking you to do exactly that. Let me put the information back up on the screen for you. American History and Heritage Foundation, P.O. Box 10388, Conway, Arkansas, 72034, area 501-336-0918. And there's the website, AmericanHistoryandHeritage.org. Senator Rayford's critics many times paint him as a religious bigot. It seems like our critics, if they can't find anything truthful, they make up their own truth. They make up their own narrative. And that's what you hear most of the time. And you know, Senator, while I applaud your stand and your oratory, I really am embarrassed that the pastors aren't doing the same thing. The pastors of this state and the pastors of this nation have got to stand up and say exactly what you said to their congregations. Because it's up to you, just like Psalm 11:3. It says, what are the righteous going to do? So you've got to register to vote, you've got to vote, you've got to find out who you're voting for, and make sure that you're doing your part. Because in the end, we're all going to have to answer for this.
That's right.
If we don't do something about it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for all you do.
And thank you for your stand and our love to your wife and your girls. We appreciate the whole family, because the whole family is in this together. Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Arkansas Alive. Now you know what you can do about the war on the saints. So join me next time, and don't ever forget it. Remember, Jesus is Lord of Arkansas, and wherever you're watching, too.
Send your questions, comments, and testimonies to Happy Caldwell at Post Office Box 26207, Little Rock, Arkansas 72221, or email happycaldwell@vtntv.com. Remember to follow VTN on Facebook at VTN Your Arkansas Christian Connection, and follow Happy Caldwell on Twitter at Happy_Caldwell. Today's episode is available to watch on demand at vtntv.com and click Watch. You can also watch VTN via live stream at vtntv.com.